Welcome everyone to McCall's Science Enrichment. Today's experiment is entitled Banana Scrimshaw. There's a title for you. And here are the materials that we'll need for today's experiment. You will need some fresh, just ripe, just yellow bananas. You're not looking for anything that's way too green. You're looking for the colors of these bananas to be turning yellow, more yellow than green. And you definitely don't want these bananas to be too old, because then you're going to start getting brown spots on them like this. No, you want them to be plain yellow with as few brown spots and as few green spots as possible. Now, bananas are tricky because they don't stay plain yellow for long. They're either raw green, yellow, ripe, or then they're overripe, but you want them just as they're getting to be ripe, and this is what we're looking for today, some areas of unblemished yellow. You will need today a pin or a needle. The instructions call for using a mechanical pencil and inserting a needle. Today I'm going to be using my standard straight pin because I can use this long thing and press on this end without cutting my finger, and it's long enough where I can get some leverage and use it just fine. So a safety needle is just fine for today's experiment. You don't want it to be too big. You'll need a pair of scissors, yes. You'll need a thin pen of some kind. You will need some blank thin white paper, and you will need some tape. Now the tape should be strong enough to be able to attach to the bananas. I'm going to be using this clear tape today because that's what I have, and it's nice and wide and it should attach to the banana and all of that good stuff. So here are the procedures for this experiment. Hang on. Okay, now for our procedures today, choose a banana that is pretty free of any kind of blemishes or brown spots and has a nice wide yellow area, because that's going to be the area that we're going to create a design. Now the design is written on a thin piece of paper. I'm just going to go with a cursive capital L here since my first name is Larry. Then I'm going to go with an L because this is a shape that I wouldn't be able to miss on an otherwise innocent looking banana. I'm going to know that this experiment is a success today if we can see, when it's all said and done, this shaped L on this banana. So in order to create that shape, I have written this letter on a thin piece of paper. I've cut out some areas here so that when this paper is wrapped around this sort of round banana, it doesn't buckle or fold or crease at all. And I've taken the one end of the piece of paper and I've taped it to the banana. Now I'm going to finish taping the other ends of this to the banana, and then what you're going to see me doing here in a speeded up super duper thing is I'm going to take my straight pen, and once this paper is in place, all you're going to see me doing, fast forward, is to take our little pin here, and I'm going to very carefully insert that pin through the paper. Now I'm just going to push that pin far enough into the peel of the banana so that it makes a little dot. And then I'm going to move over just a little bit and make another dot. And eventually I'm going to make hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of little tiny dot punctures along the curve of this design. And then when I come back to you, it's going to be normal speed, and we'll take a look at what happened to this banana underneath this paper as we were puncturing it, and we'll go from there. Hang on, here we go. So it's been 30 minutes since we stopped puncturing the peel of this banana through the paper with our straight pin. And now it's time to see what has happened to those puncture marks into the peel of this banana. So we're just going to begin to remove that paper. And I'm going to be careful not to disturb the area where the puncture marks are. And look, in 30 minutes time, we've gone from a smooth yellow banana peel to the puncture marks. You can see all these little puncture marks connecting each other to make that L shape. So we're definitely seeing something here. We started with a banana that was just ripe, going from green to a plain yellow. We broke the skin of that peel in tiny little dots that kind of form a line now, and now we get a brown cursive capital L. What's the science behind what we're seeing? What's going on here? So we have a special guest here to our science class. This is our little friend of science here. Her name is Zinnia, but I call her Zippy because she's quite zippy. She zips around the house. I'll just move this over here, and you can kind of see Zippy here in being involved. Hello, Zippy, how you doing? She gets very curious every time the camera comes out, and she definitely loves to lay on the purple towel. Whoop, I might have disturbed her. She's very, very friendly, and she's very curious, and she's an excellent, excellent scientist. So welcome, Zippy. Now, listen, we're going to talk about the science of what is happening here with our good friend, the banana. Now, these bananas here on the left are bananas that I purchased, maybe about 2 hours ago from the grocery store. These were bananas that were still in the protective box that they came to the store in from the wholesale sailor, and they were pristine. There wasn't a mark on them. They've gotten a couple marks since. I was trying to be careful bringing them home, but these bananas are just fresh. They have very few marks on them. They look beautiful, and I tried to be very careful with these when I brought them home. Now, this set of bananas here probably was purchased, I'm going to guess about 2 days ago or so. Now, these bananas here on the left look just like these bananas on the right. There was no difference. But look what 2 days has done. I probably wasn't as careful bringing these bananas on the left home, so I put some gouges here in the skin, and anywhere where that banana peel has been chafed or abraded or worn away or torn in any way, shape, or form, we've now got a brown spot. Now, Americans are funny about their bananas. Really, only in America do we ask small children, what color do you color in a banana? The answer is always, of course, yellow. Yellow. Bananas are yellow. Everybody knows that, right? Well, here's the thing. Most of the bananas in the world are not yellow. Many banana varieties in the world that are very popular, people eat them every day, are red, or they're gold, or they're a green color. We love in America these yellow bananas. And here's the thing. We love yellow bananas that look perfect. We want all of our bananas to be as spot-free as possible. Now, these two bananas, I'm sure, are delicious. They're about the same ripeness, maybe a day apart or so, but people, myself included, when I go to get bananas, I want a fresh one. I want a banana that looks perfect. I really don't want to buy a banana that looks like this. Now, I'm more than happy to eat a banana that looks like this, but I want to buy them so that I know that they'll last as long as possible. So we know from these comparisons here that bananas, especially yellow bananas, tend to get brown spots on them over time. That's part of the aging process. Remember, these bananas start out green. They're in a bunch like this. That bunch connects to the banana tree, and this bunch in the box when I bought them were all pretty green like this. Now in 2 hours, they've begun to go yellow. But these bananas go from a bright green to a bright yellow, and then they start getting these little spots on these little brown spots, and then eventually we get bananas that are almost all brown, and you know, you've eaten one of those bananas before. They're a little mushy, and they're great for making breads and cookies and all. But if I want a banana, I'm looking for a banana like this, and most Americans are as well. So today, when I took one of these fresh bananas, and this was one of those bananas, we started out with a bright yellow area, and we put little puncture marks in there. It only took about 30 minutes, maybe even less, for these puncture marks to go dark brown. Look at that. They're almost like a dark brown black color. So the process of banana peels going from their yellow-green color to a brown color is called enzymatic browning. That's a phrase you don't hear very often. Enzymatic browning. So what's happening is, as we punctured the paper into the peel, that little needle left a little hole in the very outside layer of this banana peel, and that allowed air to get inside, even just a little bit inside that peel. So when the inside of that peel is exposed to air, it oxidizes. The chemicals in that peel react to air that's in the air that we breathe, in oxygen. And that oxidation of that peel turns a brown color. That's exactly why bananas that have been sitting around for a couple days, unless you're careful, anywhere they've got a little ding or a boo-boo here on the banana, those peel areas here were exposed to air, so they oxidized, and that is specifically called enzymatic browning. Now, here's the thing. If you're buying produce, and that would be vegetables and fruits, Americans are also gaga over perfect looking things. They're spending good money at a supermarket for vegetables and fruits, and they want things that look as perfect as possible. Most Americans, and I include myself in there too. I mean, if I'm spending $2 for a pepper, I want that pepper to have no blemishes on it. But most Americans do not want to buy or eat fruits or vegetables that have got little dings on their peels and have oxidized. Enzymatic browning happens to other fruits besides bananas. It happens to other vegetables as well. Anytime the protective outer layer of those fruits and vegetables gets broken or pierced and exposed to air, they tend to turn brownish in color. And there's nothing really wrong with the inside of this banana. I mean, if we were to take this banana right now and peel it like the chimpanzees do from this end, look, the inside is perfectly good. Now you can see where that needle went into the flesh of the banana. But I'm sure it's delicious. Now, I'm going to probably eat this once this movie is done, and it's going to be wonderful. But there's nothing wrong with this banana. There's nothing wrong with these bananas. I'm sure they're just delicious. But enzymatic browning makes people a little bit queasy. People don't really want to eat something that has a little mark on it. I mean, would you buy a banana like this in the store that has a shape on it? You'd be like, oh, what's going on there? Somebody's touched that. I don't want that. I don't want that. Well, I know that I've done this, and I'm sure it's going to be delicious. Now, my mother was a survivor, I guess you could say. She was a farm girl during the Great Depression here in the United States. And I have to tell you something. She believed that nothing should be wasted. If you had food at home, it should never be wasted. And she would never, never, never let little blemishes or dings or brown spots in fruits and vegetables deter her. No, she championed those things. She thought they tasted better. I don't know if they did or not, but she claimed that they did. But she loved eating the boo-boos in fruits and vegetables because she said, how bad could it be? I mean, the nutrients are there, the taste is there, it's delicious. Most people are queasy about these sort of things, but I guess if you're raised on a farm, it's not such a big deal. Now, enzymatic browning is just the chemicals being exposed to air and turning that brown color. There's nothing really wrong with the nutrition. Everything's perfectly fine, but it can get a little out of hand. So what we're going to do now is we're going to talk about why this video is subtitled not just bananas, but banana Scrimshaw. What on earth am I talking about when I'm referencing Scrimshaw? Here we go. Well, comfy, cozy. Look who's back. Our favorite science assistant here, Miss Zinnia Zippy, whatever her name is back, and she's very comfy on the purple towel. And let's just let her dream big right here. So we have some help. So listen, when we're looking at the shape that we punctured into our banana, that dark brown L shape, it reminds me of something that people used to do before petroleum oil became the main source of oil to heat our homes and light our lights with. Before petroleum oil was big in the world as a source of fuel, one of the biggest sources of fuel, I kid you not, believe it or not, was the hunting of whales by ships. Whaling ships that were rigged and designed to go out and actually hunt, yes, and kill whales for their whale oil. These ships would hunt or kill a whale, and they would render that whale body down using metal tools, and they would extract from the body of that now deceased whale the natural oils that were in the tissues and the body of the whale. And that whale oil was pretty pure stuff, and it was very combustible. It was used to light lamps, and it was used to heat homes, and it was used for a long time in the 19th century as a source of natural fuel. So the sailors that were hired on these whaling ships sometimes would have time on their hands. They would have all their work done. The ship was in good shape, and they were looking for whales, but they hadn't spotted one, so they had time on their hands. And what they would do is they would take their free time and they would use it for artistic purposes to keep their minds sharp and their hands sharp and keep their skills sharp. And speaking of sharp, one of the ways that they use their skills was to probably take the point of a knife, sort of like this. This is one of my steak knives, and this point is definitely sharp enough and fine enough to scratch into a material that was really everywhere on that ship. If they were lucky enough to, find a whale, some of the parts that they couldn't use that weren't as valuable as the whale oil were like the whale's bones, and especially the whale's teeth. Now, whale teeth are pretty big. I mean, whale teeth can be maybe even as big as our good friend Zippy here. I mean, whale teeth can be pretty big. They can be smaller in some of the smaller whales, but on some of the bigger whales, those teeth are quite large. Definitely at least as big as the bunch of bananas we looked at the video today. So these whale teeth, they could be sold, but there was plenty of them on board these ships. So sometimes sailors would take their metal tools that were nice and pointy like this knife, and they would scratch designs into the smooth enamel surface of these whale teeth. Now, they didn't have to scratch very deep. They didn't have to scratch any deeper than the depth of the pin going into our banana peel. All they had to do was scratch a line or, take the point and wear away a couple dots. And if they connected the dots, or they were able to, with skill, scratch a single line, they would clean that whale tooth off. And when they were done scratching their design, they would cover that whale tooth with soot from a lamp or ashes from a fire, or maybe they would have some old grease or something on board, and they would smear some of that grease onto the tooth. And wherever they scratched an image into that tooth, the grease would stick, or the dark ash would stick into the channel that was cut into the surface of that tooth. They would wipe the rest of the tooth away, and they would clean everything off, but the groove that they had scratched into it would keep its dirt in there, keep the grease in there, and it would stain the tooth. It would leave a mark. So it became customary for sailors to do, fairly elaborate designs on some of these whale teeth, and that was called scrimshaw. And when the whaling ship would report back to harbor, and these sailors would go back with their families or their wives or whomever, they would give these scrimshawed, artistically rendered whale's teeth as gifts. They were mementos. They were fairly valuable gifts, and because they're bone, basically, they last a long time. Now, scrimshaw that was done in the 19th century, many of them still exist, and they're highly prized, and they would have images of people, or they had images of history, or they might have a date scratched in there, or they might show, scenes from the whaling industry, or just anything. They might be American eagles or American flags or anything, presidents or anything, even just common stuff. And those items, those artwork items were called scrimshaw. So instead of doing scrimshaw today for this experiment with whale teeth, thank goodness we've evolved as human beings, we're doing our scrimshaw today using enzymatic browning and bananas. Now listen, I hope you are all having fun. I hope everything is fine. I hope that you are all being safe this week. Don't let your guard down. Be safe and healthy, and I hope you get a chance to do this and have fun. If you do scrimshaw and bananas, please send me pictures, because I like to brag about how my students have fun doing this and that and the other thing. If you have ideas for more experiments, let me know. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Kumbaya, and we'll see you soon. Take care.
As I